let me ask you this. In jiu-jitsu, every black belt knows how to do a rear naked choke, but very few people can do a rear naked choke like Marcelo Garcia.
Right.
You know, very few people. I mean,
Why?
if you just, it's because, would you say it was natural, like Lineker, or was it because he spent a lot of time perfecting the back? And I know for a fact that he did. He used to ride on people's backs with the over-under and not even try to tap them. He would just spend a lot of time just riding and perfecting the control. Then he just mastered the fight. Then he realized how important that squeeze was, so that he would ride and squeeze, and he knew that it was all about the power of the squeeze. So he spent a lot of time with the rear naked choke. And you know, there's quite a few guys out there now that are you know, his students and other guys that have developed back attacks is almost as good as Marcelo, but probably not as good. Now, when you're talking about power, you know, certain guys have the power whether they're born with it or not. What if the guys with the power actually in their training working harder and more consistently at developing power? Like, what would you need? Like, you gotta.
It's that. I mean, that is a possibility, but it's also a physics issue. It's also an anatomy issue.
What if it's both, though?
It might be both, but
It has to be, right?
It is. Like, okay, here's like Cody Garbrandt does not have big hands. He's not built like a George Foreman type character. Like, George Foreman has freakish physical attributes. He's got hands that are like the size of like canned hams. They're fucking gigantic. And he would just thump guys with a jab, and you would see them get stunned and hurt. Obviously trained like a motherfucker. Obviously had very good technique too. Obviously worked on all those things too. But you can't overcome the physical attributes if a guy does all those other things as well. That's where the freaks come in. That's where the people like that just have this ridiculous one-shot power. There's just but there's technique.
Look at Conor. Conor's not a big guy. He's a wide shoulder guy, but he has that one-hit quitter.
Yeah, yeah, no question.
No, but when you think about your turning sidekick, right? Like your personal turning sidekick, it's everybody knows now that it's extremely powerful, scary powerful. Very few people. I've never seen anybody throw a turning sidekick as hard as you. I've worked with a lot of martial artists in my time, still to this day. Holy shit. Michael Jai White, excuse me, he's right up there too, but he's like 6'4", 240. Anyways, but you have said many times that the secret behind your power was the reps. You knew that it was all about just hitting that heavy bag as many goddamn times as possible every day, just standing in front. And you said that most people don't develop that power because most people just don't spend the time standing in front of a bag and just working. So that must
It's also
mean
the way he's built, though.
Well, yeah. That too.
Listen, man, there was a lot of guys that I trained with that had good turning sidekicks. I always knew that I had a cheat. I had a physical advantage. Like the size of my hands. For someone my size, I mean, you have to realize I had hands as big when I was fighting at 154. It was ridiculous. They were just
certain physical attributes you have.
The width of the shoulders is big,
but that has nothing to do with your turning sidekick.
It does, because it's in the hips too.
His hips,
it's the same thing with my hips, my knees, my ass,
okay.
all the
explosive.
It's also the fast twitch fiber.
Well, that's when you coincidence. Is it a coincidence?
But that's when you get greatness.
Powers, a lot of it is fast twitch, and you either have fast twitch or you don't. I mean, like Nick Diaz is a hard puncher, but he's never going to be a puncher like Woodley.
But
no matter what he does, no matter what he trains with, it will never
be able to punch like
your average MMA fighter. How much time do you think they spend working on the power of their turning sidekick?
Very
average
little.
guy.
Well, no one really throws a spinning sidekick in the
Very
UFC.
few then, right?
Well, there's a few guys. There's a few guys that do it.
That have allotted a certain amount of time a week. Like for 20 minutes, I'm going to
Yeah, but to your
Mondays,
point, power, how many guys focus on throwing a right hand or left hand if they're dominant left-handed or southpaws?
Right.
Everyone does. There's very few who can do it in one punch and knock guys out.
Right. Do you know fighters that specifically train every day just to develop specific punching? Like today, I'm going to spend power punches, right?
In between camps, guys do that for sure. Guys will just like go, like George was famous for doing that. He would go down to Henzo's and just only train jiu-jitsu for like months on end, you know, just to really tighten everything up. He went to Brazil a couple times just to train jiu-jitsu.
Arlovsky would do it in boxing. I would do it in boxing.
So what's the best thing you can do Like you're a professional fighter, you're fighting in the UFC, you're ranked 13th, and you want to take your power, your hand. You want to be able to knock someone. You want to have that Conor McGregor strength. What do I got to do to get
Lift weight?
Yeah,
what would you do
I
to
don't think
develop
so.
punching
I
powers?
don't think so.
I
think
think it's genetics.
Yeah, it's genetics.
I think genetics has
so?
a lot to do with it.
Giant
but I think
amounts
you could,
to do with it.
90% of it.
if you go see somebody, they could clean up the efficiency.
Yes,
you know,
for
because
sure.
it's your shoulders, turning
Yes.
your shoulders.
Yes, there's
putting
a
your
lot
hips
of
into
technique
it. There's
in
a
it.
lot of stuff
Yes.
that goes into that punch. You know, if a world champion wrestler came in, and I came in, and I was a world champion wrestler, but my punches weren't that hard. I think in time,
Look at
all
Woodley.
these,
What do you do
all these are
specifically?
true, but let me tell you something. You talk to someone who's a real boxing trainer,
Okay.
and they will tell you that there are guys that just come in and for whatever reason, they might not have ever boxed before, but you have them throw a jab and they're like, blah! And you're like, oh, Jesus.
Can't teach that.
Just
for sure,
whatever.
For
Just-
sure, there's those people.
And then
there's
the
no denying
technique
that.
makes it better. You know, the
Yes.
technique, like if you look at a guy like Sergey Kovalev, who's a vicious knockout artist, vicious puncher, he's got both. He's got the beautiful technique, but he also has that freakish God-given strength.
Yeah.
Those are the guys that oftentimes wind up being champions.
Now look to that point. Look at Andre Ward, who he just fought, who
Doesn't have
probably
it.
trains more than Sergey. He was an Olympic medalist, gold medalist, has been training fighting since he was 10, I think.
So you're
and he
saying,
works on power punches, but he's not a knockout
So you're
artist.
saying you're a head coach of a team. You would tell all your fighters to you're either born with power or you're not. Don't worry about working on your power. Just work on
No,
your.
I wouldn't
just
say
work
You
on-
can always work on your power,
But
Eddie.
like
You
what-
can always improve everything, but you're never going to get it to that Rumble level.
Like
I'm not
I'm
saying that.
never going to
I'm
tell
not saying
Rumble, hey,
that.
let's pick our shots here. Let's more
No, I don't think we're even arguing.
volume.
What
Yeah,
do
we're
you
not
do- What
arguing.
can you do specifically? 15 minutes a week, 30 minutes a week. We're focusing on developing power. You're not known for a right
Every
hand.
coach does
you know,
it
after
already.
2 years, we're gonna do. What is it though specifically? That's
Go in
all
the
I'm asking.
pool with dumbbells like Muhammad and just throw punches. in the pool. That's
that
for
the
me.
best
You
way?
could,
Is
you
that
could
the
most
best way?
certainly do some strength and conditioning
Tons of
work
stuff.
that would help.
Just
but
hitting a bag.
Hitting a bag would help a lot. Hitting
Nothing
a
but
bag,
power shots.
maybe it's all the above will help. Like Evander Holyfield started working out with Mackie Shilstone when he went up from cruiserweight to heavyweight, so he did a lot of weightlifting, and his power
Put
came
a
up
lot
with
of
him.
weight on, though.
Put a lot of weight on, and maybe Mexican supplements.
Yes,
maybe
and he's also
definitely-
explosive.
And maybe definitely Mexican supplements, and
He was
maybe
shredded.
100%.
100% he was. And he could win the Olympia
Yeah.
at the same time. Yes.
But the guys who are like, there's a good video of Joseph Valtellini on his. Go to Bazooka Joe Valtellini on his Instagram page. Valtellini, who was Glory champion, had to step back because of concussions, and I think he's going to stay retired. He hasn't decided yet, but
Very smart.
he went down on the top. I mean, he's one of the best kickboxers in the world. But there's a video of him hitting the pads and just digging into pads and talking about like the importance of sometimes just going all out with power, just all out power shots on the pads. Like watch, you can see this guy. And when he's doing it, when he's hitting these pads, the good thing about it is hands never drop from his chin, always good position. But to really dig in and work only solely on your power, you don't want to do that all the time. Like this is just something that you're going to do occasionally, and only every
often?
athlete has to decide. It really depends on the person, depends on what else you're working on.
5 minutes a day.
See, but like this combination, these are so simple combinations.
All
like
power.
right hand, left hook, right kick.
To develop
Left
power,
hook, right kick.
isn't it
Boom.
better on a heavy bag than as opposed to these
Not necessarily. That's
Just
just as
depends.
good. That's just as good, that style, but that's not as good for straight kicks because you can't kick a person to the body that way.
Yeah.
Like if I put a body pad on a dude and I spinning back kick him, he's going to get really hurt.
Yeah, that's not
like I'll
fun.
break your ribs.
Yeah.
Even with one of those big body shields on it, if you let someone spinning back kick you in the body, it's going to break your ribs.
There's some punchers too. If they do a liver shot on a coach with a body
Yeah,
pad, they'll
drop 'em.
Yeah, they'll drop them. Internal
Yeah.
bleeding.
I
They
heard your
hit so
boy used
fucking
to
hard.
fuck up mitts, dog.
Yeah.
The dude who lost, who was the first boxer that got choked out in the UFC?
James
James
Toney?
Toney?
I heard that dude.
Oh, he could fuck some mitts up.
Oh, people
I
should
heard
James
smoke
Toney.
was
pound for
coming out
pound
of
most
him and
talented
shit.
of all
James
time.
Toney
Yeah,
is a
because
fucking
McAfoley,
artist.
rest in peace. He said, "Dog, you got to put extra. He will fuck your shit up."
He was an
that dude.
artist
Oh,
when
it-
he was at his best. He was an artist.
If you talk to
James
anyone
Toney.
from that national team, they'll say who's the best boxer, most talented of all time. Every single person unanimously says James Toney. Even Floyd Mayweather's like best we've ever seen. Talent-wise, James Toney.
He was a bad motherfucker, but he liked to eat.
He loved him some fucking Big Macs. That's a problem.
He got thick. He went all the way up to heavyweight. Remember that? James Toney started out his career at 160, 168.
Freak. Super
Yeah.
freak. To that point, though, Eddie, and we can end on that. I'll get rid of it. But look at baseball. Like Mark McGwire, he's never going to be a single base guy. He's a fucking guy who's a
Also,
douche
but here's
every
a good
time.
example: full of Mexican supplements when he's at his best.
True.
If you get that guy on the natch and had him hit a baseball, I mean, how much distance is the difference
So
between
he might
him?
hit 30 home runs instead of 70, but still,
But I mean-
it was in his genetics.
Right.
Big forearms,
Got it.
powerful hips, follow through. He was never going to be the guy who would bunt the ball or lead off.
Right. Sosa, same thing.
Same thing. Barry
Jacked.
Bonds, jacked to the
Jacked.
gills.
But that might not necessarily translate into punching power, which is really interesting. It's like they might just be really good at that. You know, I mean, it's like punching power is a weird one, man. It's a real
Let
weird
me ask
one.
you something.
Kicking
You think-
power is just as
you think
weird.
Elway could hit hard? Because that motherfucker could throw hard.
Again, that
Again,
movement
that
from
movement.
the hips, all that same movement.
Oh, they said that they had a documentary on the '83 draft, 30 for 30,
Hells yeah.
and how they fucking slammed him. How they had to scam him up, like they had to pull. Steinbrenner had to draft him because he didn't want to go to Baltimore.
Yeah, he didn't
I
want to go to
guess
the
fucking
Colts.
Tremendous shit, kinky shit. But bro, this dude could stand on the warning sign. That's a true story. He could stand on the warning track, John Elway, take one step, and put the ball right there in your glove at home plate.
Really?
That's deadly shit.
No, there's a receiver.
Oh, you have no idea.
There's-
How
a
far is that?
receiver.
How far is that?
Let's say 305, 305 feet.
305 feet, and is he throwing? Is it going up in the air, or is it a straight
Straight.
line? Just a bullet.
bullet.
You have to throw so fast for that ball not
Oh
to
my
drop.
God.
You have to watch some of the 30s
He's a
for
freak.
30s from all like that. It's very interesting how he didn't want to play for Baltimore. So somebody went to Steinbrenner's office and they said, "We'd like for you to draft John Elway." Steinbrenner goes, and he opened up the schedule for the lineup for 3 years later. He had Elway starting in right field already.
Here's why that's crazy. Here's why being able to throw from the warning track into home plate is crazy. If you took a baseball and you threw it and you shot a bullet, they would both drop at the same rate. So the bullet's only going to be in the air for a few seconds. That's why you could be 200 yards away, put your crosshairs on someone, pull the trigger, and then boom, they die immediately. It's because the bullet's traveling so fast. But the drop is the same amount of time. So it depends on how long it takes to get there. It's how far it's going to drop. So like if you're shooting something from really far away, like there's a lot of people that get into long range shooting. Like they go on those ranges, they'll hit these plates, these steel plates that are like 500, 800, 1,000 yards away, and you hear bang, clink. Like there's a delay, a noticeable delay. And in that delay, they have to calculate the drop. So like if they're shooting at that plate, their reticle, where they aim, it has to adjust for the fact that this bullet is going to drop in the amount of time that it takes to get 800 yards.
So they aim higher.
Yeah, so it's going to take a second or so, or a half a second, whatever it is. So they have to aim higher so that the scope adjusts for that. If you're throwing a baseball, imagine how much slower that is than a bullet. So you have to throw so fucking fast. If you're throwing straight, if you're just going to throw straight
Silly.
and get into home plate, that motherfucker must be throwing a bullet.
Oh,
I
he's
mean,
no
idea.
it must
Listen,
be crazy.
You know his